Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. I welcome you to the series History, Science and Faith in Islam. It is a narrative designed to foster a renewal of faith based on a knowledge of our history, science and culture. Today's session is on the development of Islamic communities along the east coast of the great continent of Africa. Like a benevolent mother, opening her arms to all the children in the neighborhood, Africa held its arms open for successive waves of refugees from Arabia. In turn, the immigrants brought with them the light of Islam and shared it with the people of Africa. This was the quid pro quo between Africa and Arabia. Africa gave protection to the Arabs. In turn, the Arabs shared their faith and their knowledge with Africa. It was the year 613 CE, 9 years before the Hijrah. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was still in Mecca. Mighty was the struggle he was engaged in, teaching the message of the unity of God and the brotherhood of man to a people steeped in layers of ignorance. As conversion to Islam gathered momentum, so did the persecution of the Muslims. Conditions became so harsh in Mecca that the Prophet ordered a group of Muslims to migrate to Abyssinia across the Red Sea from Arabia. There, the Christian king received them with honor and gave them protection. 2 years later, in 615 CE, a larger migration took place. Many were the well-known companions who were a part of the second migration. The second group stayed in Africa for 14 years, returning only in the year 629 CE, long after the Hijrah, which was 622 CE, and the establishment of a Muslim community in the city of Medina. This pattern of migration continued after the passing away of the Prophet ﷺ. The civil wars that ensued or the succession to the Prophet generated successive waves of refugees. Africa always had its arms open to those Muslims who were at the losing end of the armed conflicts and were fleeing the heavy-handed persecution by the victors. The Indian Ocean was the connecting link between the Arabian Peninsula and the coast of East Africa, called the Swahil or Sahel in Arabic. It became the conduit for men and women seeking refuge from the political upheavals of the Arab world. After the assassination of Ali radiallahu anhu in 661 CE and the tragedy of Karbala in 680 CE, the Umayyads consolidated their hold on the Arab Empire and relentlessly persecuted those who had supported Ali radiallahu anhu. Any sign of dissent was mercilessly crushed. Resistance to this oppression, flowing in the body politic like a subterranean stream, surfaced sporadically, but each time it surfaced, it was brutally crushed. The lineage of Ali radiallahu anhu, the Shia Imams and their followers were always suspect in the eyes of the Umayyads, who used every coercive means at their disposal to extirpate any sign of dissent. The Kharijites, called Al-Khawarij, who had opposed both Muawiyah and Ali radiallahu anhu, were the first group to face the wrath of the Umayyads. Unable to withstand the pressures, the Kharijites split. One group moved west to North Africa and settled south of Tripoli in Libya. Another migrated to Oman in 680 686 CE, and from there settled down the coast of East Africa. In their new homes in Africa, they gave up their violent ways and turned their attention instead to charity and prayer. Hence, they're called the Ibadis. The political climate for the Shias and others opposed to Umayyad rule improved somewhat during the reign of Khalifa Umar bin Abdul Aziz, who ruled from 717 to 719 CE, but deteriorated rapidly for the worse after his death by poisoning. During the reign of Abdul Walid Hisham, a group of Sayyids, meaning descendants of the Prophet ﷺ, migrated to East Africa and settled at Mogadishu. Wherever they went, they established mosques and halqas, meaning centers of learning. The purity of their hearts and the nobility of their character attracted people, and a large number accepted Islam. The Abbasid revolution of 750 CE turned the power structure of the Islamic world upside down. The victorious Abbasids pursued the Umayyads with a vengeance. It was now the turn of the Umayyads to flee. One of the Umayyad princes, Abdurrahman I, escaped to Spain, where he founded the Umayyad Empire in 751 CE. Other Umayyads fled south, taking the oceanic route to the Sahel, and settled along the coasts of Somalia and Kenya. In the 10th century, the political edifice of the Islamic world was rent asunder by the Shia-Sunni split. The Fatimids, a branch of Shia Islam, challenging the authority of the Abbasids of Baghdad, marched out of the deserts of North Africa and soon overran Egypt and the Hijaz. In the 10th century, their sway extended as far east as Multan, currently in Pakistan. There were also many splinter groups among the Fatimids. One of the extremist groups, the Karamatians, rose up in Yemen. Moving north, they sacked the city of Mecca in the year 930 CE, removing the Hijr Aswad from the Kaaba, and carried it off first to Basra and then to Bahrain. It was brought back to Mecca by the Abbasids in 952 CE. People of Yemen and the Hijaz scattered. Some found refuge in the Sahel, settling down in cities as far south as Tanzania. Excavations on the Pate Island in the 1980s confirmed the presence of Muslims in East Africa as early as 830 CE. Faza, on the northern coast of Pate Island, was a major center of commerce until it was destroyed by the Portuguese in the 16th century. Through these centuries, there was a constant influx of traders from Oman and Persia into the Sahel. The immigrants had contacts in the lands they came from. Trade flourished. Africa offered ivory and gold. The Arabs offered Yemeni textiles, Omani pearls, and Arabian incense. There was also a three-way trade involving spices from the southwest coast of India and silk from faraway China. Trade, commerce, and the two-way movement of people attracted the attention of kings and noblemen as well. Circa 1000 CE, Prince Ali ibn Hassan al-Shirazi of Persia migrated to East Africa along with his entourage of courtiers and supporters. He disembarked in Mogadishu, in Somalia, but his reception by the local elite was cool. Sailing further south, he landed at Khilba in Tanzania. He purchased the island from the Bantu king and established a trading post there. The commanding location of Kilwa on the north-south trade lanes of East Africa gave it an advantage over rival trading posts. In time, Kilwa grew to be the most important trading center in East Africa. The political clout of the city grew in proportion to its commerce. In the 12th century, Sultan Suleiman Hassan, the ninth in the lineage of Sultan Ali ibn Hassan, captured the port of Sofala at the mouth of the Zambezi River. Sofala was the export center for the gold and ivory in the Zambezi River. Control of this wealth gave the sultans of Kilwa enormous political clout along the Swahili, and they extended their sway along the coast from Kenya to the Zambezi River. Included in these domains were Mombasa, Zanzibar, Kilwa, Komoro, Sofala, and the cities along the coast of the large island of Madagascar. Kilwa carried on a brisk trade with cities as far away as Oman, Cochin in India, and Aceh in Indonesia. Using the astrolabe, the Kilwans developed precise navigational maps of the Indian Ocean. Commerce made the African cities prosper, and the Sultanate of Kilwa rose to occupy an important place among the trading kingdoms that dotted the Indian Ocean like pearls around a half moon. The free flow of people created a cosmopolitan culture wherein the immigrants and the Africans freely mixed with each other. The Arabs and Persians melted into the African milieu, and a new culture arose, amalgamating the best that Persia, Oman, Arabia, Yemen, and East Africa had to offer. This was the origin of the Swahili culture. In time, the Swahili language grew, incorporating Bantu grammar and a rich Arabic and Persian vocabulary. It remains the lingua franca of the people of East Africa and is the declared national language of Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, the Comoros, and the Congo. The impact of Swahili culture and language is to be felt as far away as the African American population in the United States. Examples are the celebration of Kwanzaa as a holiday and the use of Kiswahili names by a sizable number of African Americans. The far-flung Kilwa Sultanate was a free association of commercial interests between the major trading cities in the Swahili. The Sultan was the nominal head of this association. Each city enjoyed a great deal of autonomy. The decentralized structure allowed each city to build its own trade relations with the Bantu peoples of the interior. The coastal cities exported Yemeni, Persian, and Indian textiles to the interior, and imported in turn ivory and gold. The region prospered. Ibn Battuta visited the East African coast in 1331 to 1332, traveling through the Sudan and Yemen, then on to Zaila in Eritrea, Mogadishu in Somalia, Mombasa in Kenya, and further south to Zanzibar and Kilwa. Ibn Battuta found the inhabitants of these cities to be very affluent. He records that they wore fine cotton clothes and intricate gold jewelry, prayed in domed mosques, and dined on fine porcelain from China. Their cities were peaceful, with no outer fortresses, offering a warm and open welcome to the merchants from distant shores. In the 15th century, Kilwa went into decline because of court intrigue and internecine warfare. Ambitious viziers made the sultans their puppets and became the de facto rulers. Sensing the corruption and turmoil in the capital, the associate cities in Sofala, Malindi, Mombasa, and Mozambique sought to distance themselves from Kilwa and became independent. It was into this fragmented political structure that the Portuguese thrust their dagger. Vasco da Gama circumnavigated the Cape of Good Hope in 1498. His goal was to find a sea route to the spice trade of India, bypassing the Muslims in the Middle East and North Africa, who had hitherto controlled that trade. Vasco da Gama visited Mozambique and then Kilwa. Sailing further north, he touched Mombasa and then Malindi. It was from Malindi that he embarked on the last leg of his voyage. The Muslims of East Africa knew the Indian Ocean well and understood the monsoons that enabled them to ply this vast ocean. Vasco da Gama enlisted the help of an African Muslim mariner, Ahmad ibn Majid. Taking advantage of the southwest monsoons, he sailed along the Indian Ocean and landed at Cochin on the Malabar coast of India in May 1498. The discovery of a sea route to India from Europe, bypassing the land routes through the Middle East, was a major event in world history. Europe was now in a position not only to benefit from direct trade with Asia, but more importantly, threaten the Arab and Muslim Middle East with military encirclement. From a global perspective, three major events took place in rapid succession towards the end of the 15th century. They signaled the end of the medieval period and ushered in the era of European ascendancy. In 1492, Granada fell, and the Muslims and the Jews were expelled from Spain, freeing up the southwestern flank of Europe from Muslim encirclement, a prospect that had haunted Europe for 700 years. It was also in 1492 that Columbus made the European discovery of America and opened up the vast resources of the New World to European exploitation. Then, in 1498, Vasco da Gama discovered the sea route to India and the Far East. This concludes our first session on the introduction of Islam into East Africa. In the next session, inshallah, we'll continue with the development of Islamic communities along the coast of East Africa. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.